Welcome to On the Spectrum. I'm your host, Terri Matthews, and this is the show where we inform you, entertain you, and encourage you, yes, about all things on the spectrum. We like to call it prescription TV. So what's up Wednesdays right here at On the Spectrum? We have a special guest, Nequetta Alfred, who's a licensed behavioral therapist, and will be talking to us about what all parents want to know. A meltdown. Hi, Nequetta.
Hi, Terri.
So, a meltdown versus a tantrum. I get this question all the time. Can you help our viewers out there understand, really, what is the difference?
Absolutely. That's a great question. A meltdown is actually uncontrollable. A tantrum is something that you can control. A tantrum is from wanting attention, not getting your way, or it could be sensory. But meltdown is simply sensory. It can be noise. It can be walking into a large crowd. It can be touching things that you don't want to touch. So it's mostly sensory stimulated.
So, the challenge I had with Jaden when he went through a meltdown, most parents or other people didn't really understand what that was. Is there something that tells the difference? Like, how as a mom, especially with a newly diagnosed child, how do I know what the difference is between that meltdown and tantrum?
The biggest difference is a tantrum, the kid is trying to get something. With a meltdown, you don't necessarily want anything. It can be psychological. It can be a headache. It can be the lighting. It can be too much attention from people that you're around. So sometimes you can't tell. And then most times you can tell. The best thing you want to do is be prepared for a tantrum or a meltdown by knowing the triggers and what causes this kid to get so frustrated and upset.
So speaking of triggers, not all the time could I control when Jaden went into a meltdown. We could be in Target and this kiddo could have, a meltdown.
Yes.
So what would you recommend for a parent that's going through a meltdown? For me, that was extremely embarrassing. And, I had all these eyes watching me.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I should stay in Target or leave. What would you recommend?
So the first thing is the parent have to be calm themselves. A lot of times you see the parent get just as elevated as the child. You have to stay calm, and then you have to remind the kid, take some deep breaths, calm down. Now, if it gets to a point where it escalates, that is a time you want to remove the child from the situation so that it's not a safety hazard. But the most important thing is use calming techniques, use relaxation techniques, sing a favorite song, grab him by his hand, find out if it's something that he really wants that's sensory. If you have sensory balls, if you have anything that can calm him down right on the spot, a tablet, an iPad, it'll work, but it needs to be charged up if that's something that calms him down.
So, I think this is great, and I actually wish I had some of these techniques early on. But what I will say to you, too, is some parents also are not sure if they should punish a child that has a meltdown. And I'm not talking about just a spanking or, some kids get spanked, some kids don't. I don't necessarily do that. But what would you recommend? Should a child that has a meltdown ever be punished?
It depends. If it's a temper tantrum, absolutely, because that's attention, that's being defiant. But a meltdown is psychological 90% of the time. You don't know what that emotional disturbance is. You don't know if it's from a headache, the lighting. So it's really important for the parent to pay attention to what triggers this child and also not punish him if it's not intentional or if it's not for attention.
Well, Nequetta, thank you so much, because this is such a big deal for parents.
Yes.
Especially with kids who are nonverbal, when they're trying to get your attention about certain things, or like you said, those sensory issues, right? And they don't know how to communicate. It's too much light. It's too many people. It's too much of a sound, right? I need to get away. So we sometimes see that in a meltdown.
And if you can stop it, it helps. I have a kid, one of the kids I work with, the noise level, even at his birthday, he's always covering his ears. We got him earmuffs, so when he goes out in public, he don't hear so much noise.
See, I love those ideas. Thank you so much for coming on today
so
and
welcome.
clarifying the difference between a meltdown and a tantrum. So if you have a story or a tip or something that you would like to share, please log on to www.terrimatthewsonline.com and you can submit your question for What's Up Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on The Spectrum. So I really love this because there's a lot of